I'm going to show you how to recreate this flyer game. This is code.org. The flyer game has a flyer, little character that tries to collect coins, and there are rocks going across the screen. The rocks push the player, so you have to avoid the rocks because if you're pushed off the screen, the game is over. So here is the game. I control the player with the up key. If you notice, if I go off the screen, it says game over. I can move left, I can move right, and the rocks push me or displace me. Okay, so this is the game that we are going to be completing. If you notice, this level has bubbles at the top. Each bubble is a different part of your game. So I would suggest going bubble by bubble because it does guide you at the top with some instructions. They give you some pre-set up code. I am in block mode. You can switch to text if you are more comfortable with that. I prefer text, but I will do it in block today. So you have some gray areas here. These are called comments. They are meant to guide you, to show you where you are going to be putting your code. When you create your own code, you should always have comments because they help you remember what you did and they help other people that are reading your code. So if you notice, when I run this program, I already have a background and I already have a sprite on the screen. The comments here say game setup, create player, target, and obstacle. We have already created a player on the screen, which is our little flybot. And you need 2 blocks to create a sprite on the screen. The first one is a variable block where you create the variable. We named it player and we created the sprite at a location of 200, 100. This is your X and this is your Y. If you remember in class, the X goes across, the Y goes up and down, just like it would be in math class. However, if you notice, 0, 0 is in the upper left corner, so your X coordinates go from 0 to 400, meaning they increase as you go to the right and decrease as you go to the left. This is important when we're dealing with velocity and where we want to move the player. The y-axis, it increases as you go down. So you'll see that it goes from 0 to 400. So it increases as you go down and decreases as you go up. Okay. So on level 2, they're asking us to create a sprite for the player, the target, and the obstacles. You can use whatever sprites you want. I'm just going to use the default sprites that they provided for us in the animation tab. You have flybot, coin, and rock. So this is our player, our target, and our obstacle. Like I said, they already created the sprite for the player already for us, and they scaled it. The scale block, as you remember, does shrink your sprite. So if I were to change this to 1, you'll notice that flybot is bigger. So 1 is the regular size. Anything above 1, let's say 1.5, will make the sprite larger. And anything below, they had 0.8, will make the sprite smaller. Okay, so this is our flybot. I need to create 2 more obstacles. If you look at the do this, it says go to the animation tab and make sure you have the images that you want. Well, if you are interested, you can grab your new animations, but I'm just going to use the default ones. Find the comment game setup right here. Create 3 more sprites, the target, and 2 obstacles. So remember what I said, you need 2 blocks of code to create a sprite. So I'm going to drag out this one. I'm going to name it target. And then I need to say where I want my target. So right now my sprite is a block because I have not set the animation, but I'm going to place my coin, let's say here on the lower left corner. So this point right here, if you see I point my mouse, there's an X and Y in this area right here. So if I want my coin here, that's about 5,300. So I'm going to change the X and Y coordinates. And then I'm going to change the animation. So it is not a gray block. And if you have your animations loaded in the animation tab, this drop-down arrow should show all your animations. My target is the coin. That's where I want the flybot to collect. So if I reset that, you'll notice now that I've created a coin and it is at this location of 5,300. Now I need 2 sprites for my obstacles. So I'm going to name it obstacle 1 Remember, when you're naming variables, they need to be all lowercase or camel case with no, it cannot start with a number. You can have a number, but not at the beginning, okay? And no spaces in your variable name. So I name that obstacle 1, and then I am going to change the animation, and it is going to be the rock. I want my first rock to be here, so I'm going to put this at 50-50. You can also start it off the screen so you don't see it. I'm going to place it on the screen so you can visibly see where I placed it. And then I'm going to make another one using the same code, but I'm going to name it obstacle 2. I'm going to place this one down here at, let's say, 300, 350. And I need to set my animation. Notice that the variable names need to match. Now I'm going to use this rock for 2 different sprites. So you can have 2 different sprites with the same animation. So now when I reset this, notice I have 2 rocks in 2 different places. They are 2 different sprites, but they're using the same animation. Okay? So we've done all of this and we've placed them on or off the screen. Later on, we're going to move this coin randomly, but not just yet. The last thing we need to do here is set the starting velocities of the obstacles. So we want the obstacles to move when the game starts. And it gives us a clue here. It says use the X velocity to move left and right, or use the Y velocity to move up and down. So I am going to find where I created my obstacles, and I'm going to add a velocity. So remember I said X and Y, X goes across, Y goes up and down. So I'm going to focus on obstacle 1. Obstacle 1, I want to move to the right of the X axis. So notice it increases, so I need to use a positive number. So I'm going to find the X velocity for obstacle 1, and then I'm going to place a number here. The smaller the number, the slower the sprite goes. Okay, and there it goes. So if you notice, if I put a 1 here, it will go slower. Okay, I'm going to leave it at 3. I think that's a good speed for me. You can change it to whatever you'd like. Now notice the sprite goes off the screen and it never comes back. Later on, in another step, we are going to show you, I am going to show you how to loop that to come back around. But for now, that's good. I'm going to do the same thing for obstacle 2. But obstacle 2 is going up. So we are going to be using the Y velocity. So I'm going to grab a Y velocity, name it obstacle 2. And because it is going up, and remember the numbers decrease as they go up, I need a negative velocity. Okay, so now they're both moving. That's exactly what I'm looking for. They do go off and never come back, but like I said, we're going to be fixing that later. So it says test your program. I just did. The player and target should be on your screen, which it is, and the obstacles should start off the screen and move across the screen from left to right and up to down. Now, we started ours on the screen. If you did want to start it off the screen, you'd need to use a negative number for your first one. So let me show you that. So I have obstacle 1 starting at 50-50. I can start it off the screen, because remember, this is 0 here. If we go past it, it becomes a negative number. Okay, and we could do the same thing here. However, because this is 400, we need to use 425. So I'm going to change the Y position of the second obstacle to 425. So now notice they are starting off the screen. Okay. All right, we are done with level 2.